Police officers report for briefing at the start of their shifts. There, the watch commander and other supervisors review the previous 24-hour log and hand out assignments for the shift. This evening I rode with Officer John Evers. This was Officer Evers' last night as a patrolman. Evers had been promoted to detective and will work with the Crimes Against Children unit. Officer Evers has had 5.5 years experience with MPD and 8.5 years experience with the Los Angeles Police Department. Officer Evers went to the equipment room and picked up his car keys. He went out to check the car and made sure that there was no visible damage to the vehicle, contraband dropped by suspects, or property that had been left in the vehicle from the previous shift. An AM/PM store on Tully Road was robbed the night before by a Hispanic male adult armed with a gun. A small amount of money was taken.
Case officer is in charge of basically the foundation for the case, like if you're building a house, kind of establishing the crime itself, the elements, and collecting your witness data, your victim data, and then obviously for efficiency, you'll have officers like me and John. I was the first unit on scene, so I ended up chasing the guy, so I handled the pursuit portion of it, and the search, recovery of the vehicle that he used, and the money and other elements of the crime that were in the truck. So I processed that, and then John, Officer Evers, did the identification portion. He's pretty good at finding out who people are.
The police had an idea of who the armed robber might be, so they put together a pictorial lineup of 6 similar-looking individuals, including the suspect, to see if eyewitnesses can pick him out of the lineup. The officers referred to this as a six-pack.
Think that looks good?
Looks pretty good to me.
After Evers and Mullins had their six-pack picked out, Evers took it out to witnesses to see if they could positively identify the suspect.
Do you think if you saw him in live person, you'd be able to identify him easier?
Yeah, and if I saw him soon, I know I'd be able to identify him.
Right.
Because he had a hickey size, huge black hickey right there. This guy right here.
The witnesses were unable to make a positive ID, so Evers headed out to the suspect's girlfriend's house. Since the suspect may have been at his girlfriend's house, Evers staged at Fire Station 10 while he waited for backup. Officer Dave Corder arrived and they headed out.
Last day in patrol.
Huh?
Last day in patrol.
Last day in patrol. Looks more like your first day in detective.
Evers interviewed the suspect's girlfriend and got an updated description along with where the suspect was last seen.
Well, he had a mark on his neck. Can you tell me what that was?
A hickey?
Yeah.
It's a hickey.
Okay. It was a hickey. Did you give that to him?
Having pursued all immediate leads, the case was then sent off to the detectives for further investigation.
Yes, I'm 31.
I'm 31.
We're out with a stranded motorist at H and 1st Street, 6 Union 89972.
We came across a stalled vehicle on the roadway. The driver requested a jump start, but regulations don't allow for that. So, the driver of the truck requested we push him out of the roadway, and that's exactly what Evers did.
Thank you.
All right, guy. We're gonna wait for our backup anyway.
Okay. Can do.
We were dispatched to stage as backup for a domestic disturbance on the 500 block of Colorado, when we were suddenly preempted for another domestic disturbance with weapons on 2nd Street.
Officer safety. We have another RP calling in stating it's possibly somebody armed with a rifle.
We arrived to find a neighborhood dispute over children's misbehavior, which had escalated into a stabbing. A woman was beat up, and a Hispanic male adult in his late 40s was stabbed in the arm with a steak knife.
What happened?
Nobody been here.
Okay. No one beat you up?
No cooperation was given to the police. The stabbing victim went to the hospital. Evers and Officer Becky Hodson went to the hospital to get a statement and pictures of the injury. The case was turned over to the detectives, who can go back later when things are calmer, and they can get more cooperation in plainclothes than in uniforms. I wish I could have shown you pictures of the emergency room. Unlike shows on TV, real hospitals don't like cameras due to privacy and liability issues. However, they deserve some well-earned credit. Emergency rooms have the entire world routinely thrown at them. ERs cope with overwhelming numbers of victims of crime, accidents, trauma, medical ailments, and people with no primary medical providers seeking care at odd hours of the day. I am amazed and humbled by their level of professionalism and efficiency I witnessed in the emergency room this night.
Yeah, I was into the kitchen.
Okay.
Evers was dispatched to back up a fellow officer doing a security check. A teenage girl, home alone, heard some noises which sounded like someone entering the residence. The police went in and cleared the house to make sure that there were no intruders.
Well, buddy.
Well, what do you think?
Two juveniles got into a fight over some differences, resulting in mutual combat. Their parents were notified and left to resolve the incident.
Yeah, that was a kid's.
Evers heard over the scanner that the CHP and the Sheriff's Department were responding to a felony hit and run with injuries on the 1300 block of Beverly Drive. This area is one of many county islands which are surrounded or bordered by the city. And the police department and the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department worked together to better serve the community at large. Two pedestrians were struck by the driver of a Chevy Caprice Classic. Upon arrival, the fire chief of the Burbank Paradise Fire Station asked Evers to help with crowd control so that AMR could treat the victims. The two victims, a man and a woman, were taken to the hospital. Investigation pending by the Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department.
He's with me. Channel 2, Central Valley.
Did you call the police?
Yeah, the guy that was parked in the van just went down that street right there.
He went down this street.
Driving down. Oh, yeah, where'd she go?
She went running this way.
Okay.
Witnesses saw a young woman get out of an eastbound Burgundy Dodge Caravan, screaming and fleeing westbound on Robertson from Lone Pine. Evers went westbound on Robertson to find and aid the victim. We were unable to locate her and doubled back from Carpenter to make an eastbound pass on Robertson. Just as Evers was about to call up the search for the screaming woman,
31. Hey!
we came across a Hispanic female adult being punched in the face by a drunken Hispanic male adult on the street next to a car. Evers immediately placed the male under arrest, having witnessed the crime firsthand. He started the investigation with the help of a neighbor as translator.
She said, thank God you were passing by because he was calling her name 31. To get ready to hit her.
Is this related to your original call, or is it going to be completely different?
Her daughter. That's her daughter.
It's going to be completely different. It's going to be a separate 21035 here. I need a unit with a DV camera, please.
Officer Dave Corder arrived and took the suspect into custody. Evers and Corder worked their way through a 4-page checklist to accurately cover the type, nature, and duration of the abuse in their report.
Has he accused you of cheating?
He has accused her.
He has? On several occasions?
Yes.
Evers called an on-call judge who heard the facts in the case and then immediately on the scene authorized an emergency protective order mandating that the abuser stay a minimum of 100 yards away from the victim. In cases of domestic violence, once an emergency protective order is issued, victims have 5 days to go to court and to get a court date set. The victim then gets a temporary 30-day restraining order until the court can hear the case, and if the court finds for the victim can then obtain a regular restraining order against the abuser, good for 3 years. The husband went to jail on charges of felony spousal abuse.
I don't see the call holding. Let's see if someone's handling it.
Evers was hailed by a merchant from a local jewelry store. There had been a previous false alarm to which 2 officers had responded, but by the time the merchant had arrived, the officers had departed. So Evers went in and cleared the building while the merchant reset the alarm. False alarms cost the police a great deal of time that could be spent elsewhere, so the department has recently enacted more stringent fines on repeat false alarms. Evers heard a foot pursuit on the scanner on Santiago, and we started that direction until the subject was lost, and a perimeter search was started. Foot pursuits are high priority for officers because an officer is actively involved pursuing a suspect and potentially at risk should the suspect be caught up to or stops and fights the officer.
Channel 1, 1034.
Channel 1, 1034. 234 Channel 1 for Santiago, 43 has a 1015 in the bathroom.
Being canceled from the previous call, Evers headed downtown, being a busy Saturday night, until the next call arrived. Evers responded code 3, meaning responding with lights and sirens to a shooting at the quick stop at Paradise and Carpenter.
92, I'm going to be delayed by a train. 37, I'm just on 97, the quick stop.
Yeah.
792, you guys see me at the scene, or you want me to look over the box?
M6 or 3197.
A suspected gang member from Southern California and possibly intended target was shot in the leg, while two unrelated bystanders were struck by the gunfire. A woman in the head and her male companion in the arm. The suspect left, headed north on Victoria in a black Ford Focus. Police assisted the sheriff's department in setting up a crime scene, interviewing witnesses, searching for evidence, and putting out a description of the suspects while paramedics aided the wounded and the dying. All three were transported to local hospitals. The woman was pronounced dead at the hospital. I am shocked and sickened by what I see, but the officers tell me that these sights are unfortunately too common. I think that only a terrorist could inflict such harm on someone so undeserving. Somebody's wife, mother, or daughter won't be returning home this night because somebody murdered her. The sheriff's department's investigation is still pending. Evers met with Officer Letzinger for a traffic accident. The driver and passengers had been transported to the hospital before the PD arrived. Witnesses were interviewed. Letzinger later determined at the hospital that alcohol was not involved. Evers got called out for backup on a domestic disturbance call, but we were cleared on arrival. Evers refilled the cruiser's tanks for the next shift, and we head back to the station. End of shift, and so ends another day as a new one begins in the day of the life of the Modesto Police Department. For the Central Valley Report, I am Michael Filson.
No pictures, please.
No pictures.
My eyes are toast.
Oh, you're no fun.